Found Huddle, where we talk everything business. Today we have our guest Charley on. Charley, welcome to the Huddle. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thank you guys for having me on.
Nice to be with
Definitely.
you.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we just kind of go through to have a conversation about business and all the good stuff?
Born and raised in Utah, as most people know. Very religious, very Mormon state. I was not. We weren't atheists. We weren't Catholic. We weren't Buddhist. We weren't Muslim. I was not religious. I was not spiritual. I had nothing. I was as blank as this white wall behind me. It was a very rare upbringing. Parents didn't force us to do anything. Didn't do well around kids my age. As soon as I was offered a job around 16, I jumped at it because I could be around adults. I loved asking questions. I loved being around executives. I loved being inside business. Blue collar parents, no college education for myself. But for some reason, when I got involved with business and growth and everything around that, I loved it. I thrived. Absolutely. Was picking up garbage and taking coffee and going to the bank runs, and then turned into very quickly growing into managing stuff. And very early on in that organization, the female CEO that took a chance on me, she passed away unexpectedly on a Saturday, and myself and another individual in our early 20s took over on a Monday. So it was very kind of thrown into the fire. But we were blissfully ignorant to what we needed to do, and we did exactly what we needed to do. All the marketing, all the traveling, all the shows. He was the back end, I was the front end, the face, and I did well. I flew about 2 million miles, and then I developed a fear of flying. And that fear of flying had nothing to do with the fear of flying. It's how sometimes we are forced to do things we don't want to do. The universe kind of steps in and says, we need you out of here. I know you love it. I know you got a great culture. I know you never want to leave. I know there's a ton of money. I know there's a great everything. But you signed up for some other shit. Really? Okay. Well, that sucks, but okay. After I left the business, I was on a plane a month later. So it had nothing to do with the fear of flying. It was the way the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, got me out of there. I took over the Pay It Forward Foundation afterwards, right? The for-profit sector let me down, so I go try to save the world through nonprofit. The famous book and movie with Pay It Forward, traveled the world, was on a lot of planes again. So again, no fear of flying. But during that time, I was doing what usually everyone does. We do self-development. When we fail or something lets us down, we think something's wrong with us. So we go find a coach, we go find a consultant, we go find a class, we go find a Tony Robbins. And I was doing the same thing. Every one of them kept telling me they couldn't help me. They could help everyone else, but for some reason they had the balls to say, I can't help you. I was asking different questions, deeper questions. Again, no frame of reference. I don't know why these questions came out of me. I don't know why I understood business without any background or without any training. I don't know why all of this was happening. Well, during that time, one of them luckily said, you need a teacher. You don't need a coach. You need a teacher. I said, okay, you want me to go back to college? Like, I didn't understand what a teacher was. No, a spiritual teacher. Okay, fine. Do you know one? Oh, no, I have no clue. Okay, you guys are really helping me out here. This is awesome. Luckily, again, the universe stepped in. I crossed paths with an 85-year-old guy who was ass naked in a sauna. I was sitting. He was standing. You can understand where my eye level was at. And he looked at me. He looked at me and said, I feel like I've known you from a past life. Those words busted something open. I had no clue what that meant. Again, I had studied no religion, no spirituality. I'd never heard any of that. He and I talked. I loved what he had to tell me. I loved what the books he referenced. I loved that he had me meditating. He was a typical Utahn, so he didn't have a lot of people to talk about the stuff with because they were very boxed into their religion. So he enjoyed our time. I very much enjoyed our time. It led to other things. And then it led to my current teacher, who can defy the laws of physics. He scares a lot of people because he would look at both of you. He could tell you all your health issues. He could tell you what you're thinking. He can do certain things that, let's just say, defy the laws of gravity. He can just do amazing things. For some reason, once again, I enjoyed it. I thrived. He was telling me shit that made absolutely no sense, but I understood it. He was having me read books that very few people read. Now, the difference was, this is why the self-development didn't work. He was a teacher, not a teacher to fill my mind that was already severely overwhelmed, just like everyone else's mind. It's full. He was showing me how to strip it all away. He was removing my biases, my conditioning. He was helping me unlearn everything I'd ever learned. He helped me get to the point on my own to understand all religions, all politics, all business, all knowledge, all sides, all conflict, all division, all the things we fight over, all the things that we think is our way, our truth. That's the way. It's all coming from the same source. So how is it that this world is so divided and conflicted, and we're at each other's throats continuously since the beginning of humanity? And yet here we are today, more divided and conflicted than ever, when we don't understand that the heads and tails of the coin are not better than each other. They're just different, and they're on the same coin. So that's a very compact understanding of 44 years on this planet, but I'm sure we'll get into the discussion of details of all sides of that.
So that's a great story, Charley. So in your journey, because we like to relate everything back to business, okay. In your journey, how do we help business owners with what your discovery journey is about? I mean, how does it help businesses? Let's do it that way. Or business.
Well, so here's the great thing. Here's the great thing about this. Most people who cross paths with my teacher leave the world behind because they strip it all away and they just don't want to deal with the bullshit anymore. That was not my path. So I've come back to bridge the world of consciousness and business. Now, when it regards business, everything is consciousness. And that may be the first time that your listeners are hearing this. Everything it's fundamental to our reality and to our existence. Everything you've ever learned, every book you've read, every podcast you've watched, every YouTube, every seminar, everything your teachers taught you, anything you've ever thought, any theory, any idea, is consciousness. We think it comes from the mind. The mind's just the middleman. Einstein said the same mind that created the problem can't solve it. We wonder why there's so many issues on the planet, because this little middleman that drives everyone crazy is driving everyone to the point of division and conflict. When it comes to business, consciousness has been in business. It's been who you are. We're just not aware of it. As this planet shifts, and it's shifting like crazy, consciousness, mark my words, will become the center focus of humanity. It already has been, but we're going to be aware of it. We're going to be aware of it at a business level. Business is still going to be there. Business takes over the world. Business is the world. Everyone needs a job. What consciousness does is it takes everyone from this limited perception at customer service, middle management, VP, C-suite, CEO, anyone, and expands their awareness. The only answers and solutions I have to a problem are with this in this tiny little scope. Consciousness starts to expand. There's different questions. There's different solutions. There's different tactics. The CEO sees different industries. HR learns how to hire different people. Marketing comes up with better ideas to get more exposure. Sales finds out a way to sell more. Customer service learns how to get along with each other. There's less division and conflict within the organization. There's less burnout. There's less turnover. There's better retention. Because what's the most interesting thing about business? We have never had more information and knowledge on how to reduce burnout, how to increase retention, how to be less stressful, how to be happy. 10,000 books on happiness. We've never been more unhappy. We've never been more stressed out. There's never been more burnout. There's never been more division and conflict. The point of this discussion is to say, okay, we have access to all of this knowledge in business. We're all hiring coaches and consultants for happiness and for less stress and less burnout. But it's the polar opposite. What am I missing? Well, what I'm missing is we're focusing here on the mind continuously because that's the only tool we've ever been given. It's the only tool we've known. It's the only tool we've ever focused on. Consciousness is the source. Consciousness birthed your mind. It birthed your thoughts. It birthed your body. It birthed everything you could possibly think of, physical and non-physical. You can either mess around with the middleman, and that's showing you exactly how humanity's been and how it's torn business apart and created stress and burnout. Or you can go down to the source, expand your awareness, and watch what happens. That's where this position becomes so crucial. Like 30 years ago when technology took over, everyone knew technology was going to take over. Everyone knew we needed to get online. Everyone knew we needed a website. Was there anyone inside of the company that could code or put a URL up? Nope. So they hired chief technology officers. Well,
Yep.
as consciousness becomes the central focus of business, anyone know what consciousness is? I have no clue, but I know it's coming. Well, then you better hire a chief consciousness officer who understands it at a very tactical, practical, high level and can help everyone within the business utilize it.
So if I'm hearing you correctly for how you kind of look at that whole entire picture. So my background comes from I grew up around business my entire life. It's what I did. I went to school through the 5th grade, homeschooled after that. Basically focused almost 100% of my attention on business every single day. For how the family business ran, how taxes were done, how all that stuff all happened. So I instead of going off to college, I took a couple courses and I taught myself programming and all that. And I was working at AOL at the time, going back 30 years ago when all that stuff was just starting and growing up. But I got told, hey, you're already way ahead of that curve. Don't do it. Just go learn and get the hard knocks of life. Stay hanging out with us, and we'll be able to do it. Well, I've started multiple businesses. I've failed multiple businesses. I had a mentor come into my life that was like, I think you should go this direction. I'll buy your company. I'll buy all your debt, and let's go through and let's start this off. I learned what the power of the debt side of the world is. With that, you learn how nothing is new inside of the world of business. It's all in how you do things different. With where technology is today, you have more power at your at your fingertips to be able to do things now than you've ever been able to do. You don't have to go hire someone specifically to go do your marketing. You don't have to go. All that is not complicated anymore. When it first came out, it was super complicated to build a website. I mean, if we were talking to me in 1995, I would have confused the living hell out of you on how to go build a website. Could have told you. I would have told you, okay, you're open notepad, you're going to do this, or front page, you have to install this, do this, do this, do this. But today, it's a lot more simple. But you still have big corporations out there that are trying to make it complicated, because if they make it complicated, it is going to be a way that they can charge more, B, they can also control more, and you also have to have them and need them. That's why they send you reports that don't matter, because they're trying to be able to justify their whole entire need of the whole entire piece. So it sounds like you bring that in and make all that aware. Am I hearing you correctly? Sorry for my long-winded answer.
No, beautifully put. Now here's the difference. There's just a little bit deeper understanding, a little subtle shift there. You're 100% correct. But everyone thinks, like when we think of the government, we think of big business, we think of rich, we think they're against us. There are levels of consciousness on this planet. It's like an 8-year-old who believes in Santa Claus. We just accept it. But when we turn 9, 10, 11, we start to question if Santa's really mom. And then we turn 12 and 13 and we understand it is mom. And then we move on with our lives. The vast majority of this planet still believes in Santa Claus. And I don't say that insultingly, because they can be Harvard grad, 170 IQ, be it but one of those big businesses that sends that report to try and control you. That's the best we can do. With that level of consciousness on this planet, if we could do better, Robert and Dean, we will do better. We basically are like this. We don't know what's on the other side of the camera. We don't know what's on the other side of the windshield. We don't know what's through the clarity. We think the complexity is a necessity. Now, for those who are a little further down the line and know it's not, such as what you just discussed, we think it's complete ignorance. And you would be right. But you know who also is right? The people who are creating the complexity, because that's all they know. Truly. I know we're always thinking this, we're against them, this or that, right or wrong, screw them, they're not for us, they're against us. Everything I learned from my teacher, everything that's been stripped away, everything I've read, everything I know from the level of consciousness, because everything is consciousness, there are a few that are malicious. But the vast majority, their heart's in the right place. They want to make the world better for their kids. When it comes to business, whatever, they look at business and the way they do it, creating jobs, et cetera, however they justify it, they're doing what they think is right. End of discussion.
I would agree with that. I mean,
right?
They're going through,
so go ahead. Sorry.
No, go for it.
No, I was just saying that's the best we can do, and we're continuously fighting it. We're continuously trying to take down the other side. Since the beginning of humanity, we honestly believe our side's going to win, the other side's going to lose, and everyone's going to be okay with that.
Well,
It's never happened.
It's why everybody's always been at war. I mean, if you go all the way back to the
Exactly.
very beginning of time, we've been at war since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, there's things that have always controlled society. That's going to be power and greed. I mean, that's what has always been there. It's why you have people, certain people that are always at the top, and everybody poverty stays at poverty, and it's hard to break out of your class because you don't have the tools to be able to stack up to be able to do that. A lot of it comes down to what you think and how you think that.
So
Correct.
I guess the question I have,
and where does that thinking come from?
Right, but I think the way a lot of businesses are, and the way the world is right now, if you will, is those who are the majority that are in control are dictating the narrative. And you're saying there's going to be a bit of a shift on that as more people start to challenge the majority. Is that what you're saying, Charlie?
Yeah, so they're dictating the narrative, but they're creating a narrative that is most comfortable to the masses. The masses are merely a reflection of the leaders, and the leaders are merely a reflection of the masses. To my point of we would do better if we knew better. We don't. Everyone wants to point the finger. And each side, Republican or Democrat, Catholic or atheist, rich or poor, we're always pointing the finger on the other side, right? But when humans are left to their own devices, look what we create. Complete chaos, war, division, and conflict, right? I'm not saying that pessimistically. That's just what we're looking at. Consciousness is everything physical and non-physical. It's the most powerful force in the world. It takes a 12-year-old and naturally turns them 13. No teachers needed. No money, nothing. You just naturally, after 365 days, you turn 13. Well, what's happening with humanity right now is there's a shift of consciousness on this planet like humanity's never experienced. It's bringing clarity and allowing people to see. And they're starting to understand what Dean and Robert are talking about. They're starting to understand that the top is doing this, or this side's doing this, or whatever. They're awakening to it. So they're asking different questions. They're starting to question their own beliefs. They're starting to doubt their own beliefs. They're starting to doubt that this is the only way we can do it. So if you take 8 billion people and it's a rising tide brings up all ships because everything's consciousness, everyone goes from, if they're in second grade, they go to third or fourth. If they're in junior high, they go to high school. If they're in high school, they go into college. If they're in college, they're going to a PhD level program. Intelligence increases, clarity increases. Everyone starts to think differently. And this is the shift you're seeing. But before creation comes destruction. That's why, in a sense, all the chaos that's going on right now at the most extreme is actually a good thing because it's breaking shit down. It's allowing people to hear what Dean and Robert's saying and actually start to understand them and agree with them rather than saying, that's not my belief. I'm not going to listen to you guys.
So you have a huge I agree, you have a huge shift that's about ready to happen. AI's helped that. The internet's helped that. So if you go back to 95 and we started getting connected and you had the news groups and the newsrooms and all that stuff in the 90s, it's only gotten bigger. So it's increased people's anxiety. It's created to where people had control before by, running the news stations, running each of these networks. They could control the narrative of what you heard, what you consumed, and they controlled who got into office from the president. They controlled all these different things. So when you look at that from that aspect, they really were putting everybody. So I'm going to go back to my father-in-law for what he said before he passed away. He always said this all the time. It was one of those things to where the population got put into a pen, and it was like sheep get out in the wild. You put up one side of the fence, keep putting hay here. They keep coming in. The sheep come in. They feel comfortable. You put up another side of the sheep or the other side of the fence. Next thing you know, you have a gate. They're coming in and out of the gate. You close the gate. They're okay with it because they're going to stay. Well, with how much communication we have now and how much knowledge and how much truth is coming out, it's hard to hide behind all the fake stuff. Granted, there's a lot more fake stuff with AI and all that coming out. That's a whole different fake than what we've been used to consuming. So our human brain is able to be able to, question different aspects of what it is we have because there's really no boundaries. We're in the Wild West when it comes to the new AI side. And it's bringing a whole new type of communication into the world that we're in. So when you look at that whole entire sheep analogy, we're able to question that, and that's breaking people outside of that fence in some aspects, especially with how they're consuming their news, what they look is real, what is there. Some are going off a way that is just totally insane, in my opinion. But you have a lot that are coming into that picture. Is that kind of what you're saying inside of there? Is that same kind of analogy?
Yeah, like Plato's cave, the sheep analogy. You're just becoming aware of it. You're not believing in Santa Claus anymore. You're understanding Santa Claus that you lived your whole life around, and this mythical figure was your mom. And then maybe there's a part of you that gets upset that you were lied to, and then you move on and realize, you look back at it and say, that was just part of my life. I'm not upset at it. I don't feel guilty. Why would I feel shame? That's what everyone told me. Everyone told me. My parents told me. My teachers told me. My family told me. Santa agreed, and everyone agreed with it. As more people start to awaken to that, just part of the process. Right now, everyone's going through the process of being really pissed off. We're back. Everyone's going through the process of being really pissed off, of finding out how they've been treated, what they've been taught, what they've been told, right? Part of the process. And then it makes it so these systems can't stay. It's like the Wizard of Oz. They're just pulling back the curtain, right? So it's just a shift. So everyone starts to awaken to things. When we know better, we do better. And then we're going to go about doing things in a different way.
Well, you know what made Santa Claus, right?
What?
It was a Coke. It was a Coke commercial. It was all propaganda. It was all propaganda, and they put it all the way around.
Valentine's and all those. Yeah.
So if you look at the whole entire piece of what made him the jolly person and put this whole entire picture, it was Coca-Cola that did that. The whole reason why they needed to be able to come up with that campaign is because they weren't selling enough Coca-Cola during the winter months. Because it was known as being a summer drink. You went out, you mowed your grass, you drank Coke. I mean, it was this whole piece. So they brought that in. What was that? The 1920s, 1930s?
Right before Prohibition, or right before the Depression, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere there. So I mean, that the whole entire thing has been there. So I mean, it's all nothing but a propaganda piece.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit. Yeah, thanks for that, sharing that, Rob, on the history of Santa. But what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a big fear in the small businesses that I'm coaching. They're concerned because businesses is on downturn. You know, I mean, I'm trying to do is bring this back around to them. What can we offer them? Because I mean, they're seeing things that, the way when Rob talks about AI searches are different. The algorithms have changed, things like that. People have done websites and they're not coming to the way people interact right now. They're not going out to a coffee shop and sitting down in some place in some parts of the world. There's some real fears that are going on with the small business people. What can we tell them of what because that's their livelihood, that's their job, if you will, and there's not enough corporate jobs out there for all them to just all leave the small business and go out there. How do we tell them? How do we alleviate some of their fears and make them more aware of what possibly could be going on?
Okay, so I'm assuming, no.
Okay.
No. There's an incredible amount of fear, right? Because all of this new AI, all this new technology, you either have people for it or against it. And I assume the typical question to a typical answer to a question like that is it's going to be some generic, you should go do this. Maybe you need to switch. Maybe you need to understand your technology. Maybe you need to use AI more. And that doesn't subside their fear, right? So I'm going to give them a different angle. And whether they understand it or not, whether they like it or not, this is what works for me. This is my opinion. When we're here and we have this limited understanding, it's a very limited perception of what's going on, right? What we're going to see in front of it is whatever our beliefs are, our religions, our politics. We see AI. We see the fear that's being put out there. We have a small business. There's not enough corporate jobs. Everything that you said is right here in this little perception, right? Well, you've got this vast resource of consciousness with all these different ideas, creative ways, different ways to look at things, better ways to look at things, new ways to look at things outside of this limited perception. This is why I'm so passionate about consciousness. Because your consciousness is limited to this very limited perception. You expand this perception, you get to see more. Now, I don't know exactly what happens with that. Anyone on your show that tells people exactly what to do and that it's going to work, they're full of shit and you know it. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just simply saying you're here. This creates a lot of fear. You're seeing a very limited perception of what's out there. You're only seeing the stuff that's going to create the fear. Let's just experiment with consciousness, expand our awareness, and see what type of solutions, what type of different answers, what type of different questions, what type of different ways to go about your small business, maybe new ways, new ways to market. I don't know, but here, this is where humanity's always been. So those small business owners that can't get a corporate job just because there's not enough, which they're completely agree with, let's expand awareness just to see what else is out there, just to see what else may come up, new creative ideas, new ways to make money. That's all I got. Because truly, understanding consciousness like I do, we have so many experts and so many coaches and so many guides that say, this is what you need to do. But we keep getting to this point inside business where it's something shifts and it just creates a lot of fear, and then we don't know what to do, and then it just works itself out.
Well, it's where self-sabotage comes into business a lot. So you reach a certain point, it might be a dollar amount, might be a number of sales, it might be whatever. And it's kind of that burnout period too, where you'll sabotage your own business once you hit that level because you have a fear to be able to go to that next level. And I mean, there's not a lot of these help books, a lot of these pieces that are out there. I know as Dean and I are working on our book, I don't want to be that book that's going to be that, it's not that magic bullet. It's to be able to open your eyes to more opportunities that are out there. Because there's multiple. Dean's gonna probably comment on this, but there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. I mean, we're gonna skin a cat today. There's 1,000 ways to accomplish it. We look at business as being like a marketing tree. I don't know if you've ever watched any of our YouTube videos or anything. I talk about the marketing tree all the time. The very bottom, you have your root structure. So your root structure is going to be your listings engine from us. It's going to be all your citations. It's your business listings. It's all of your business information. It's your branding, your name, your business URL or website address. It's all of that data that's sitting there. That's your root ball that's at the bottom. Then you have your website that comes up inside of the trunk. That's going to be all of your structured data, your SEO, all that different stuff. Then up at the canopy, everybody's canopy looks different. You have your blog section. You've got your social media. Then you have your sub branches off of that. You might have email marketing. You might have paid ads. You might have all this different stuff going on up inside of your canopy. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. And when we're talking, we're doing any kind of coaching or any of that, it's based on the data that we have access to either from them or possibly their competitors, whatever's out there in the world to be able to make those decisions, because there isn't that magic bullet. Is that kind of where you're kind of going with that in some aspects? That's where my brain went anyway.
Yes, what works for one doesn't work for another. There's 8 billion people. There's 8 billion paths up the mountain. And we are continuously being told, because of out of fear, we're looking for an expert to help us. So we listen to them and we basically cut off this vast resource of consciousness down to this limited perception and say, this is what they told me, this is what's going to work. It most likely won't work for you. But actually, let's do this. NASA did a study. They followed 2,000 kids. 98% were considered genius at the ages of 4. By the time those kids were adults, it was less than 2%. My point is, we've got this vast resource of consciousness. Knowledge is structured in consciousness, meaning everything you need to know, especially in a time of fear and to change and to be more creative and come up with new ideas, is out here. But this is right. This is wrong. I'm Republican. No, I'm Democrat. I'm Catholic. I'm atheist. This is up. We have taken this vast resource and boxed our minds into this little tiny perception. And that NASA study, if you don't think that relates to all 8 billion people and how we learn and how society is and what our parents teach us and all of it. Consciousness is everything. Expand the awareness. So when Robert or Dean come to you or someone else comes to you, you can take their information, utilize it in the way you need to utilize it on your own path up to expand awareness and see things differently. Truly, I know this is kind of etheric and people think consciousness is spiritual. It's not. This is tactical. We, since the beginning of humanity, have gone about this type of stuff through the ups and the downs and the empires and the loss of empires and the AI and the technology and how it shifts our jobs and how it shifts how humanity just goes about their day-to-day life. We have done this thousands of times, and we keep doing the same shit thousands and thousands of times. And Einstein said the same thing, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. To your point of the tree, the root is consciousness. The leaves of the tree are everything that we're worried about, everything we're thinking, oh, it's the economy, oh, it's AI, it's the government, it's this, it's that. When you water something, do you water the leaves or do you water the root? No, you water the root. All I'm saying is, and this is probably drastically different than most guests talk about, and I'm hoping it is different because it'll bring their attention to it. Just research consciousness. Google search it to your listeners. Again, it is not spiritual, it's tactical. Just for the hell of it. If you're really being backed into a corner in your small business, in your life, in trying to figure out new ways to go about putting food on the table, just for the hell of it, I know it's completely out in right field to what you're used to. Google consciousness. Find out what it is. Understand that that's who you are. Understand that's where every piece of knowledge you've ever wanted to access with your awareness is in awareness. That's who you are. That's knowledge. Maybe that simple shift in understanding, maybe that new tool of consciousness, which is everything and it's vast and it's infinite, maybe that will be the secret to you expanding and figuring out how to get past your fears to expand your business rather than let it restrict.
So, Rob, you know this is coming.
I think he's going to talk about kindergarten and coloring.
I want to go back to my kid. You talk about this, Charlie. I mean, in kindergarten, I got, I was not the norm. I was always pushed in the envelopes. And the thing is we are forced by the mainstream of society, by adults, by peers, into a filtering system where we get put down that path. I mean, in kindergarten, I got pushed into this box I didn't want to be in. And Rob knows all about it. My daughter says, "Get over it, Dad. It was 60 years ago." But
it was now actually 61 or 62 years.
62 years ago. Okay, excuse me. But
you got to get the dates right. If you're going to talk about the story, you got to get the dates right, man.
Yeah, I know. And it was in 1963, guys. Okay, this happened. So yes, it's been a couple of years ago. But you're absolutely right. But I think the problem that we have with this whole thing with business and everything, we know it worked in the past. We've got these filters. We've been pushed down this trough. We've been doing, and I think people have a hard time adjusting or to stepping outside your consciousness, if you will, because we know what's comfortable. We know it worked. And in business people get really hung up. Like I've done ads for all my life and it's always worked. And now ads aren't working. What's going on? I have my Google business profile and it worked for years and now it's not working the same. What's going on? I mean, and Rob and I are fighting that all the time. And we talk about the consciousness. It's really interesting because I talked to Rob a couple of days before you ever got on the show about our business guru kind of thing of where we talk about, because everybody's unique. I mean, you can do certain things, certain patterns to help businesses, but everybody needs to look at what their business is and what they're trying to accomplish. Because I think you get hung up and you get put in that box and you can't get out of it and you can't expand your thought process. Would you kind of say that that's a true statement, or do you disagree with me? I'm okay with that. If you disagree,
no, absolutely not. See, this is how the mind works. I literally basically just said that. You described it in a different way, and then you have a question to say, do you agree with that? Right. That's how confused and lack of clarity we have as a society, because the Catholic says one thing and the Buddhist says one thing, and they're at each other's throats because no, that's a different God. No, it's coming from the same source. So what you just said is we're put into a box and society creates that box. NASA's study puts people into a box. NASA showed that we go from being genius and open and wide open to everything and being a sponge and being everything, whatever we want to be as a kid. And it drops from 98% down to 2% as we become adults. We think knowledge is power. No, we're taking all this knowledge, cramming it into a little tiny mind, cutting ourselves off, being put into that kindergarten box and wondering why we don't have access to it. It's exactly what I just said. And you said it perfectly in just a different angle, probably more appropriate for the people listening so they can understand it. We're talking about the same shit. Politicians are pushing the same shit, but we're continuously divided. All we need to do is work with these people at whatever level they are to help them understand in whatever way they need to understand it so they can break open that box. If the NASA study says, oh my God, I'm in a box, perfect. If what Dean just said about being put into a box in kindergarten is what wakes him up, great. If the tree analogy that Robert talks about, great. This path of consciousness is expanded to 8 billion people, and 8 billion people are going to hear it differently, right? That's the whole point. We have to expand the box. We have to be aware that what we've been taught is what put us into the box. We have to understand that our bias and our conditioning from the people who love us, our teachers, our parents, our friends, is what cut us off from the solutions that we seek right now in our small business. Like you said, in the past, we did Google searches. We did Google ads. I've always done this. I've always done that. Because that's what you don't know any better. You don't know any different. As much as there's fear right now of not knowing what to do, people also have the fear of trying to find out what is new, the unknown. There's going to be fear either way. One of them keeps you restricted and probably going to cut you off. The other one expands you. Take the fear and expand yourself and just see what happens for your small business. Because what you just described is exactly correct.
Right, and it's really hard to explain. I coach business owners all the time, and they're all hung up on the same issues, but like you said, it's just worded a little differently, kind of thing, if you will. They all have the same. Their end goals are basically the same, but how they get there, they really get hung up because everybody's trying to keep everything, like you said, in a certain path, and filters that we get developed. As when we're younger, we have no filters. We say whatever we want, and as you get older, you lose those filters again. It's like, what the hell, Dad? You can't say that anymore. You can't do that.
Exactly.
My camera went away. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I saw that you lost your camera again. We had that problem at the beginning in the green room.
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
Okay.
It's back. That's all that matters.
I can hear you, but I don't think you guys can hear me.
No, I couldn't hear you talking, so I was trying to fill it in, and Rob does a better job of controlling the conversation I do. I'm more of the listener. I'm trying to be the old guy that's wise and understanding, and because I look the part, but it isn't necessarily true. Just because I look the part doesn't mean I'm wise and understanding. Because everybody's level of consciousness, like you said, is at a different point in everybody's life, at different times.
At a different point, different times. But what we can do, no matter what that level is, no matter if they even understand let's put it this way, consciousness, just very metaphorically, very simple. I'm sure people keep hearing this, like, what the hell is it? A wise fish swimming through the ocean swims by 2 young fish and says, hey boys, how's the water? The 2 young fish look at each other and say, what's water? That's consciousness.
Yep. All 3 of us right now are swimming in it. Your listeners are swimming in it. That's where all knowledge, all of your ideas, all of your thoughts, all of your conspiracies, all of it, anything you've ever read and anything you've ever known, anything you want to know for your small business that right now has got you backed into a corner is consciousness. The mind's just a filter. Oh, this is all you've had. So you're just randomly taking in shit. Just research consciousness. Understand that you have access to it. And then you have access to getting back to that creative genius you had when you were 4 or 5 years old, just like the NASA study.
So if you were working with, say, a contractor and helping them be able to be more aware of this whole entire concept, where would you start and what would that look like and what would the end goal be on that?
So what Dean said, at the beginning, I'm observing. I'm asking a lot of questions to this individual. I'm having them watch this because this conversation is expanding all of your listeners' awareness, whether they understand it or not. It's kind of like the 4-minute mile. Everyone thought the 4-minute mile was impossible. Then someone ran it. Now everyone can run it, right? So the seed's been planted. Maybe this is the first time they've ever even heard the word consciousness. Maybe they're like, oh, you know what? I don't really like this guy. I think he's full of shit, but I'm going to see what this consciousness is. I'm not going to tell anyone about it. Perfect. Fine. The seed's been planted. I would observe. I'd ask a lot of questions. I'd try to find out their bias and their conditioning. So who did you vote for? What's your religion? What's your background? What do you think about this? Because I'm neutral. That's the big thing with the chief consciousness officer, which is something this world does not have a lot of, and companies absolutely do not have a lot of. Imagine having someone neutral that coaches you or is within your organization on time, on full time, on staff. All we've known is sides. Truly, And we keep coming to this same point as humanity, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, sides and sides. Imagine for the first time having a chief conscious officer neutral. So when I listen to someone and I hear Dean, I hear Robert, or I hear a small business owner, a contractor, or whatever, I want to know. I don't want to know their business just yet. I want to know why their limits are the way they are. Are they a Catholic in a Muslim world, right? Are they Mormon outside of Utah? Are they Republican up in Oregon? Right? Do they feel like they're up against the wall? I just want to know what their bias and conditions are so I can start to discuss, break those bias and conditionings, expand awareness. Then they're going to see for themselves different questions and different answers out in this vast resource.
So my visualization from what you just said remind me of an old movie called Fiddler on the Roof, or I think it's Reb Tivia, I think was his name, the dad went, and he'd go, on this side we have this, and on the other hand we have this, where you're trying to say, I get this, I understand this, I'm trying to figure out, is that what you're kind of saying? You have to weigh one side against the other and be, not you have to make a decision, but you have to weigh it all out through a level of expanded level of consciousness. Is that what you're saying?
Well, when you're weighing it out, it's not about weighing it out. The ultimate question is this.
Okay.
What's better, heads or tails of a coin?
Depends on which one I voted for, or which I bet it on.
Thank you for that, because that's my point. Heads or tails.
Let's go over to Vegas real quick. I mean, it's like rather black on the roulette table. Yeah. I mean, depends on which one I place a bet on.
It depends on whether I called, which side of the coin I called.
So we joke about that because we're here and everything's fine. We're on a Zoom call and there's no war and there's no one putting a knife to our. Right. The ultimate answer is they're the same, right? Okay. So what we're talking about, again, is deeper than most discussions because we're talking about the root. We're not talking about the leaf of a tree. So when I say what's better, heads or tails of the coin, most will understand that it's the same. Exactly. So the root of the issue is NASA study, we have cut ourselves off because we chose a side. We chose heads, and tails is the devil. We're the tails and we think we're saving the world, and heads is ruining the world. That type of mentality, the mentality only humans have known, have created this up and down continuous cycle of trying to figure shit out. And we keep being divided and we keep understanding that one side's going to win, the other side's going to lose. Now, I know you think that's not a direct answer to business and to your listeners, but it's 100% a direct answer to your listeners and to their businesses, because we're dicking around with the leaves and we keep doing the same shit. If we want to change, we get to the root. So if we start to understand the heads and tails are the same coin, we start asking the question, where did the coin come from? Consciousness. We start to research consciousness. This is a different angle to your listeners, but we need different. They need different. They're backed into a corner. They're very fearful. They're very worried. You guys are trying to help them. What you, Dean and Robert, can help them with will be more absorbed and better understood and better implemented with a better understanding of consciousness, not from this limited. When they're in this limited perception, they can only take so much in. Their mind's already full. When they expand it, they're expanding the box of their mind. So when Dean and Robert give them the information to change their ideas, to look at things differently, they're going to be able to absorb it and implement it and use it. That's why this discussion is different. This is why a lot of people will hear this and be like, this is so vague. This is so esoteric. This is so out in right field. This has nothing to do with my business. No, your business, your life, your body, your kids, your spouse, every single thing you could possibly think of in this universe is consciousness, and you haven't understood that. Now you do. Now you have access to it.
So I guess my question back, because I agree with you on that, and I agree with all those pieces. But my question back is, do you have to break the cycle to be able to look outside more?
Yeah.
Or what is it that you have to do? And how do you, if you have to break the cycle, how do you break the cycle?
Your listeners listening to this discussion have already broken the cycle. Like the 4-minute mile, it was impossible till someone ran it. They can't unhear, unsee, or unlearn what's been said. The soul is hearing this. It's finally getting something it's wanted its entire existence. It's been planted. The universe is the best gardener in the world. And I promise you, your listeners will go research this. They won't talk about it. Maybe they feel weird about it. Maybe they don't want to tell their wife they're trying to look into consciousness because they think it's spiritual, some hippie bullshit. But they will listen to it. They will deal with it. They will at least go plant the seed to find out what it is. Because do I look like a hippie tree hugging spiritual dude? Do I talk like a hippie tree hugging spiritual dude? No, I got 20 years of business ownership with 260 employees. I ran the nonprofit, traveled the world, got tens of millions. I have access to both sides of the world. I'm bridging this for them. I'm bridging this for the people who cross my path. Apparently, that's my purpose. And I've been given an infinite amount of metaphors to help people understand complex issues in a simple way. So how do they do it? They can go about it however they want. They can meditate. They can be mindful. They can listen to. They can ask questions about consciousness. Google search it. They can work with Dean and Robert. Whatever it is, the point is this discussion is taken from here to here. They're expanding the awareness. That's all this conversation does. When they expanded awareness, it gives them their own authority to see things differently, ask different questions, and research different ways to help their business.
Well, I mean, it's been consciousness has been used with counseling. It's been used with different cultures. You could go to the Indian tribes. It's something that they've talked about in different ways and areas. I mean, if you look at the Disney movie, gosh, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Damn it. But I mean, they have all the different personalities of what that is. Consciousness is one of them, and it's something that it happens without knowing that you are doing it. And some people.
Let me say one thing. Let me say one thing.
Go for it.
In that movie, I know what you're talking about, and it's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't.
I can picture them.
Yeah, I can picture the little cartoons. They talk about conscious, not consciousness. So here's a very simple shift. Conscious is a verb. I can see, I can touch, I can taste, I can hear, I can feel. Conscious is what you and I are doing. We're conscious. We can see each other. We're aware of each other. If I get hit in the head, I'm unconscious. People relate this and consciousness. No, conscious is a verb. There's seeing, there's feeling, there's touching, there's tasting, there's hearing. Consciousness is a noun. Consciousness is everything physical and non-physical. Consciousness makes it so all three of us on this call came from a single cell inside a woman's body, yet now we've got a brain, a mind, a liver, a heart, an organ, a conscious, have the senses, everything. Conscious is a verb. Consciousness is a noun. Consciousness is everything physical and non-physical. As we start to expand our understanding, your small business owners, everyone, I'm telling you right now, mark my words, it will be the central focus of humanity because it's always been there, but now we're being aware of it. Everything physical and non-physical is consciousness. We are consciousness. We have access to it. Part of being the human, part of being in this human experience is being conscious. And like, why? We were given eyes, we were given ears, we were given a mouth, we were given a nose, we were given the ability to feel. And I don't want to go, I don't want to go too far out in left field, but I want people to understand the difference between these things. So when they start to look at it, they have the correct understanding, and it will help them with their business. It will help them with when they're backed into a corner. It will give them access to different solutions.
So if a small business owner wants to explore and go down these roads you're talking about, it's hard to find teachers, obviously, and read the book is somebody's opinion. How do you go about achieving that? I mean, that's how we absorb information as through sound, like what we're talking about now, or through the written text, or whatever. How does a person go about discovering consciousness and possibly applying it to their business?
Ask different questions. Read books on consciousness. Google search it. Cross my path. Ask me questions. I can be very neutral and very objective to what you want to learn. You will still watch podcasts. You will still watch YouTubes. You will still have Dean and Robert help you. But the point is, when you're here, there's only so much Dean and Robert can be absorbed. Only so much that they're going to give you that you can absorb. When you're expanding the size of the box that your mind's in, you can take in new knowledge. You're going to see things differently. You're going to have the clarity and the ability and the access to take in what Dean and Robert want to teach you in a more technical, clear way. The whole point is here is this is why humanity is so divided and conflicted. They have a very limited perception. If it's expanded, they have access to more information, access to more solutions, access to more answers, right? Again, nothing changes. They're still Catholic. They're still Republican. They're still going to read books. They're still going to be divided and conflicted. But would you, as a business owner, rather be in 4th grade or 6th grade? 6th graders are a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger. They can handle better life. They can communicate better. They're better at math. They're better at taxes. They're better at business. Right? When you expand your awareness,
I don't know. They're going through puberty at 6th grade. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. And
again, a lot of big coaches.
This is a very simple explanation of complex stuff that many are hearing for the first time. And that's perfectly fine. All I'm trying to do is plant seeds. But when you expand your awareness, you're going to see things differently. You're going to be able to absorb things differently. You're going to, on your own volition, expand your own clarity and give yourself access to understanding knowledge and implementing it at a higher level.
Awesome. And if anybody's interested in contacting you, getting a hold of you, how would they go through and do that?
Through LinkedIn. I'm assuming you guys will just put my contact information in the video notes when it goes out, and just LinkedIn. There's a conversation there of what the chief consciousness officer is, what it's not. There's people going back and forth asking a lot of questions. I like them to see that. LinkedIn's more professional. It's more business. Small business owners, they can contact me there.
Cool. And I'm curious, have you ever thought about writing a book, or is that on your roadmap at all?
I did write a book called Truth Has No Sides.
Cool.
It's not so much about business. It's more about my experience with this stuff and how I got to this neutral standpoint and how consciousness can help them in any aspect of their life.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you have that hard stop, so I want to respect your time on that one, but it's one of those things to where I think it opens up everything. So I think you can't have your blinders on, is how I've always looked at it. And I think that's kind of where you're headed with that whole piece. So
great. That's a perfect way to put it.
Yep. And if you have blinders on, you're probably going to get hit by a bus at some point and be taken out because your competition doesn't have blinders on. They'll kick your butt every time.
Well, and that's what this discussion is. It's just bringing awareness to it, because most people don't believe they have blinders on, especially if you've got an Ivy League education, you got a 160 IQ. You think your clarity is perfect. It's not. Your blinders are still on.
I call them Ivory League. I don't call them Ivy League. I call them Ivory League. Someone pointed that out in comments one day. I'd say that on purpose because that's what I've always called it.
Hey, you misspelled Ivy. No, I didn't.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us today.
Thank you guys
for the questions.
That insight. I wonder. That was great.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Robert.